Welcome to another episode of Discover St. Cloud, Florida. I'm Krista McCary, and I'm here with your host,
Janine Corcoran, broker for Corcoran Connect, a real estate company.
And it is the beginning of hurricane season.
Oh my
It
gosh.
just started actually a couple of days ago. Funny enough, there's this little, I think they started calling them, I think TPCs or something like that is a new acronym I've seen. It's
Really?
like tropical something to consider. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, there's
Oh,
a
wow.
little blob out there coming off the, it's remnants from Pacific storm, kind of went across the Mexican, area and is kind of coming out the other side. So there's a potential for a tropical storm this weekend if it kind of regains its strength today.
But by the time this airs, it's probably already
Oh,
passed.
totally. And you guys are going to be like, nothing even happened. I went to the beach, guys. But the first named storm, I think his name is Alan, is what it's supposed to be for whatever the first named storm is
Okay,
of
so,
the
so,
season.
for those of you that are familiar with Florida, or just moved here, or planning on moving here, they name the storms in alphabetical order. I'm sure they do that in other states. That must be a common thing.
Yeah. Well, that's a national thing.
Oh, national thing. Yeah. You know what I meant.
So it's national.
But I'm saying not other places have hurricanes, so they may not be familiar
Right.
with how it works.
Right. So the Pacific, they do a different list. It's still the same thing. They use names. They go A through Z. But then and the Atlantic does the same, but we're opposite. So in terms of like they always alternate it. So like it'll be like a boy name, then a girl name, then a boy name, then a girl name. You know what I mean? So this year boys are first. Alex is first. But
Why
Agatha
why
was.
the boys are first?
Well, that's just how it fell this year. It alternates every year.
Oh, to be fair.
It does. And Agatha was first on the Pacific side. So anyway, so we have, we do have a potential one out there, but that kind of got us to thinking. We were talking about it yesterday. Like we have a lot of transplants now, like a lot more. Like
lot.
we normally have a lot of transplants, but I feel like now we have like a lot more people that aren't familiar with it.
Yeah.
So we have some tips.
Yes. So there are the tips, of course, that are put out.
Right. You can pretty much any disaster supply kit. Like there's one specifically for Florida, floridadisaster.org. It's a division of emergency management. And so they give this great list of things that you need to include in your hurricane kit. It does not include 27 packages of toilet paper. So please leave the toilet paper alone, guys, especially when we're talking about something like this.
So we can talk from experience because we've lived in Florida since 1987. And we had, usually in Central Florida, you are actually, schools are let out and it's hurricane day and then it's beautiful and you go to the beach. That's typically what I've experienced as a mom since 1987. The kids get off of school and we expect this hurricane and it never comes until 2004.
Right. 2004 was a big year for Florida. And I think that changed a lot of people. They were like, yeah, maybe we should pay attention a little bit.
We used to laugh at people every time. It's funny, even I have a sister that lives in Mount Dora, and when the hurricanes, were coming, she's like, "Oh, I have to go to the store. I have to do this," and I was like, "Okay, well, just watch it." It's interesting once you've experienced, you look at it at a different perspective. I think.
Yeah,
and I think that's great that they have those lists. But we're going to go through. And some of our things will cross, but there's a lot of things on there that we experienced having 4 hurricanes in a row in 2004 within 6 weeks.
Yeah.
That aren't on the list, and we kind of thought they were really important.
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, there's floridadisaster.org. They have a hurricane supply checklist. Some of the big things, of course, are, keeping your medication, making sure you have at least a 2-week supply. Making sure that you have all of your required medical devices, batteries needed for those medical devices, flashlights are great. We definitely use those. A weather radio was nice. I mean, now I feel like we have more. I mean, I guess, I don't know. We did lose cell service and all that kind of stuff back then, but I wonder if things are better now. If we wouldn't lose it, but
I don't think people realize, when you do have a hurricane, you lose, the cell phone towers are down.
Right.
Like you don't have cell phones. So now you have people from out of state, they're watching the news, and if it's a horrible one, they're watching the news and wondering, what the heck happened? Are you alive?
Right.
So it's hard for them to get in touch with you. Back then, we made sure if you had a landline, as long as it wasn't a mobile,
it had to be like
not a cordless, because
Yeah.
cordless you need electric.
you needed basically like a rotary phone. I mean, kids
Plug
these
in.
days, they don't know, but like one that does not require power. It could not be connected to power. I don't know if my kids would actually know how to use a rotary phone if we had one.
I actually had a conversation with them a couple of years ago about that, and they said, "Oh yeah, that's thingamajig phone, that you just circle your finger. And I was like, well, there's like a process to it. You pick the 1, you go a little bit. You pick the 9, you go.
Right.
Anyway, but that'd be interesting to find. So if you have a rotary phone, let us know. I would love to. And when was the last time you saw a rotary?
I know, but you need one. I mean, those would be great for this kind of thing. That was something that we realized, we didn't have back then.
I had I actually have it in my hurricane kit, but it's one of those. You remember the kind of shape phone? What were they called?
Oh yeah.
And then the buttons were right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had that. It cost me like $10 or something. I have it, but now I don't even have a hardwire phone, so it would help.
Right. What are you gonna plug it into? Nothing's there. There's no service because you don't have it. So maybe consider getting service for the hurricane season. You never know. But that's a good thing to have. Cell phone chargers. All of your pets stuff.
Yes,
pet stuff.
Yes, yeah.
Don't forget your pets. So you do want to have, enough food. Make sure that you're just kind of staying on top of things. As we're moving through hurricane season, kind of keep up your 2-week supply. Because I'll tell you, it was in 2004, we had no power for like weeks. There was no power for weeks. I mean, there was cold showers, and thankfully we weren't on a well. I mean, if you're on a well and you have, no power, you have no water. So
that was a big thing. Remember filling up the tub?
Yes.
That's just so you have extra water if you have to flush a toilet, that kind of thing. But you remember what the 4 hurricanes? You remember the names? I remember 3 of them. I didn't remember the other one. I couldn't, but.
Yeah. So Charlie.
Yeah, Charlie was the worst.
Yeah.
Knocked down all the trees, came in so fast.
So fast.
Like, it was like a railroad train went by your house.
It was pretty, that was the first true hurricane experience I had. And it was pretty crazy and intense. And not only that, but I was working at Bell Lago at the time. I was working in the sales office, and I was 6 months pregnant with my oldest daughter. And my boss called me and said, hey, it's probably going to be slow today because of all the rain. We're going to close a little early just in case we get some, wind and rain or whatever.
Typical
so stay home.
attitude.
Typical attitude. That's normal.
That was our attitude. Right.
And because it was projected to go kind of north Florida, north of Tampa, and then cut across and go up the top. Well, about midday, all of a sudden, it made a hard right turn. It just, I don't know what happened.
Made
it just
right.
said, I don't want to go here anymore. And it just went right. And so in a matter of, it hit Punta Gorda at a 4. At a 4. Category 4, which is pretty intense. But it was moving so fast. It moved across Central Florida. By the time it hit Poinciana in Central Florida, it was a category 3 still. That's intense. So it was a really intense storm, and we weren't prepared because we didn't expect it to come to us. We didn't think it was going to be that big, and then to be out of power for 3 weeks, and we had so many downed trees. Everybody lost roofs. I think that was the summer from 2004 to 2006. I felt like Central Florida was nothing but blue tarp roofs.
Yes. Oh my goodness. They weren't even pulling permits or anything. No. That's why all the roofers came down from other states, and to this day when people go to sell, it's like, well, there was no permit. How do you it's interesting to go back to that memory.
Right.
But
that's crazy.
But I remember we at the time we lived in Kissimmee, and we were in a cul-de-sac, and I just remember one of our neighbors, her husband was a police officer, so he was anyone that did any
emergency services,
they were out. So she was there with her children, and she was hiding under a pool table in her family room. And she kept hearing noise, and she called. We must have had cell phone then at the time, because I remember her calling me, and probably because it was just coming in. And she's like, "What is that noise? What is that noise?" Well, we didn't cover our windows, and so we went and looked at the window, and literally her roof was like a deck of cards. It was like coming off, and we're in the middle of the cul-de-sac. She's on one side to the left, and we're watching. A tree came through her roof and just stopped short of going through the pool table. They were hiding under the pool table.
Yeah.
Scariest thing ever. The neighbor to the right of us, same thing. Well, her back porch lifted up like a can of tuna when you open up the lid, and literally went over her house and landed on her driveway.
Yeah.
And we got to watch that. Mm-hmm. And luckily for us, we had put on a roof not too long ago.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
And so the roof, we were okay. And we were in the middle, and we had pine trees, and they just fell like like by
They
us.
did, like little matchsticks.
Yeah, but they didn't hit the house.
Because thankfully, I think they hit the fence.
Yeah,
right?
the fence.
They hit
part
the
of the
fence
came down. Yeah.
But we were really, really fortunate. I know a lot of people around us weren't so fortunate. Even Aunt Marg like with the pool enclosure. If you had a pool enclosure when a hurricane hit, that was it. Just those big cages, those were gone. That was a mess. So,
but this is probably what people down south experience all the time around the coast. Like that was the first time ever that we experienced, and we haven't experienced anything like that since then. So,
and then with, on the heels of Charlie, it took us a couple of weeks to get power back, and then Francis came through. And then Ivan hit like the Panhandle area, but then Gene also came through, and those three basically crisscrossed to like where we lived, right in Central Florida. Like the eyes of the storms came right over us, so that was a really big year for Central Floridians in terms of like, lost power and damage, and just kind of like we really got hurricane fatigue. And I think it also made us have some anxiety the following couple of years.
Took a while to get over that.
Yeah,
but we learned a lot from it.
We did,
and so we learned to make our the things that. So there are people that have the hurricane shutters, which is great. Right. But your house is completely dark. Now remember, you don't have power, and now your house is dark, so when the sun shines out, you have no air. I wasn't, that did not make sense to me.
Right.
So we had a plan of, we had heavy, after the first one, remember? Because we didn't do that the second one.
Yep.
I mean, we didn't do anything for the first one, so we planned for the second one when they started coming, because now you're awake and you're like, oh, there's another one coming.
Gotta
What's
pay
that going to be like? Yeah. So we got heavy duty tarps or shower. First, you have to have tarps for your roof and nails. Of course, you'll have a hammer, but you have to have that.
Right.
Because when you go to the store, they're out.
Yeah, completely out.
So,
and good luck getting them from family and friends up north too, because they couldn't even get to Florida at that point. You couldn't get deliveries. It was just Amazon was no luck. It wasn't really a thing back then, but it was no help. Like,
remember, a lot of people were back then taping their window with the duct tape so that if something came through, your glass didn't shatter all over. That was horrible to get in the heat of the sun to ever get off your window. By the way, that was. It seemed like years later, people still had tape on the window. And I remember Uncle T, my brother, like he was up in New York trying to mail us. He went to every store. He must have sent a whole box of duct tape that arrived and sat in Orlando. Yeah. And it never arrived.
It never got to the house. Because
everything shut down.
Yeah.
But definitely I did the tarp and the tarp nails, and then also heavy duty shower curtains. So if you don't want to board your window breaks, then you have a heavy duty shower curtain and a staple gun, and you just kind of staple it so that the water's not flooding your house. So those are the big things that I remember.
Right. For preparedness.
Yes.
And so now I'm going to touch on something near and dear to my heart, which is comfort.
Okay.
Because let me tell you, it was smelly. It was hot. I mean, that time I was going...
August 13th was the first time. Yeah.
So I was 6 months pregnant, and I don't know, ladies out there, just tell me, 6 months pregnant in the middle of August in Florida, I was hot. It was so hot and sweaty, and I was uncomfortable, and it was just, man. So some things that we learned from that is to have cash. We are so close to cashless society at this point. You need cash, because when those, we were able to go out and buy some things from places, but if you didn't have cash, they couldn't process credit cards.
No, because everything was shut down.
Everything, we had like no communication service. It was rough. So make sure you have cash, some cash squirreled away somewhere. Even with gas, I think there was at one point when the hurricanes moved through, and then you could finally get gas where the lines were like ridiculously long. You needed cash. So definitely make sure you have some cash on you this time around. And then I just remember you. I wasn't drinking coffee at the time, but
it was horrible. We didn't even have a Keurig back then, but still it was your coffee pot that you made, and you couldn't do that.
Right.
So we had to go to instant.
What'd you do though? I remember that you took the coffee pot and boiled it on the grill, and then poured the hot water over the coffee grounds, and had to do it quickly so that you could get the pot back under for the drip.
Yes, because I made my own drip.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the machine wasn't working. So yes, I took with the filter with that.
And listen,
gotta have your coffee.
When you're cleaning up after the storm, I mean, that was a lot of work. I was even out there digging trenches and pulling branches and taking them to the dump.
Remember the little fire pit putting the...
Yes.
Oh, that is terrible.
So anyway, needless to say, if you're desperate for coffee, maybe consider some instant coffee that you can boil on boil some water on the grill.
If you have a grill, that comes in handy. Yeah. At least you have something, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of people have generators, I guess, today.
They do. I think they learned. Yeah. We learned. I mean, I didn't. I don't have a generator.
I don't
do you
have
have a generator?
No. I didn't learn.
Who has a generator out there that we can come stay with? No, just kidding. But
A lot of houses, like the more custom houses, are made with generators,
like
plug-in.
whole house generators, right?
Yeah, which is nice.
Which is
you
really
know.
smart. I should do that. That's all. It seems like a lot of work.
Yeah, because you can't get ice. I mean, right?
Yeah, no
You can't-
ice.
Yeah, you can't keep anything cold. Everything.
No.
It's so that was 6 weeks.
Yeah, 6 weeks. And we were out of power, I think combined between all three of them, I want to say we were out of power for 3 or 4 weeks total. So it was pretty rough. Now, granted, we're grateful we live in Harmony now. We have underground utilities. So it seems to be less of an issue. But where we were back in the day, all the power lines were above ground. So they all came down. It was really big hit to our infrastructure in Osceola County back then.
I'd be curious to see if there's anyone else out there that was here during that time, what you experienced, and basically, what compared to the national list that they give us or the Florida list that they give us, like that you would add as your personal items.
I needed a fan. I wanted just a little battery-powered fan, even if it's one of those little handheld
little Disney ones.
ones.
Remember they made those?
I
Yeah.
just some kind of little personal cooling device. I think really would have helped me personally. And I will tell you, I remember the first day we got power back on, that glorious hot shower with the blow drying of my hair. I thought I was like, I've made it to heaven. It's finally over.
Now we know how third world countries feel, right?
Right. So it did definitely give you a different appreciation.
Yeah. So the hurricane season goes from June 1st through November 30th.
Yep. Absolutely.
It always seems to happen during the hot months when it does.
It really does. It doesn't. I feel like Charlie was like an early storm, like that. That it got that bad. Usually that's end of August, September, October is usually busy. But we have a little guy out there right now that's trying to muster itself up. It's so funny. We have a car wash planned for this Saturday for the St. Cloud Soccer Club girls, and the parents have been messaging back and forth and trying to determine, like, do we cancel it? And I'm like, it's probably not even gonna rain.
Yeah.
It's probably
and that's probably how you know whether or not they've been here for a while, right?
Exactly. So we're all
that's
kinda
usually
like,
when you go to the beach, it's sunny.
yeah, exactly. We're just kind of sit back and wait and see what happens today, if it does anything. But if not, they're genuinely we have worse afternoon thunderstorms, right? Like, but 2004 was definitely an anomaly, and so I'm not looking forward to ever repeating that again. But we'd love to hear from you. What is your thing that you would love to have, that you need to have in your security kit? I mean, we all know the basics, what you should have. You should
pets,
have
the children, the diapers, the formula.
right, which is terrible right now.
I know, yeah.
That's already short. So trying to have people keep extra supply of that. But definitely if you're, cash is king for that. And fill up your cars with gas. I know it's really expensive right now, but like
that's on the list.
it's on the list. Yeah. To make sure that but definitely make sure you have that.
And that's too, because if you have to evacuate,
right. You need a full tank. You can't So definitely keep an eye on that.
Isn't the Harmony High School
a shelter?
A shelter.
I think so.
Yeah.
Which is nice, because oh no, never mind. The high school's on a different grade. Darn. I was gonna say, usually the people that are located within the same districts as a shelter get their power back first. If you lose it, like, they have to put those on first, and so then they kind of like.
Are we on that?
No, we're not, because they're Duke Energy. we're different. We're on the same as the community school, but
okay.
Anyway, so but yeah, so that's something that I learned a long time ago. But yeah, there's definitely things that you want to make sure that you keep handy. Water's a big one.
Do they take pets at the shelters?
So there are pet-friendly shelters. You have to double check and see which ones, and we can take a look and find the closest pet-friendly shelters. But you will have to have like some kind of carrier or cage. If you have a dog, they have to have like muzzles. You got to have like leashes. So make sure you have all the stuff for your pets, so that you can, if you have to evacuate at any time during the season, that you have the stuff that you need.
Like for us we have a big dog. Would we just bring her crate?
I guess. I mean, you don't really have that much space, though. You know what I mean? But it's better than her being on a leash with a muzzle. Yeah, so she'd much rather, I'm sure, be in a cage. But yeah, I mean, it's not like it's something that you're going for comfort, right? Like we've
never done that. Like when that happened, you just didn't know.
We had no idea. Literally nobody knew that was going to come our way. And then,
And what kind of notice? Do you remember how much notice they gave us?
oh no, I'm telling you, because my friend Heather that worked at Bella Lago with me, she was also pregnant, but she was like, a couple of months pregnant. I was like 6.5, so they were like, you stay home. She can deal with the office. She didn't leave the office until like 12:30 and the bands were already moving in. It had made the turn.
What time did it hit?
So it was kind of that night it came because it did hit at night. It started picking up obviously during the day, about 3-4 o'clock. It was pretty bad. But it hit at night. It was nice and dark. So there's a lot of different memories from that time, and I'm sure there's plenty of you guys out there that experience the same thing.
We'd love to hear from you. Just comment
tell us
on
your
YouTube.
story.
Yeah, tell us your story. Call us, text us, or just comment on YouTube. We'd love to know.
Yeah, absolutely. But it definitely let us know too what your favorite item is that your must have. What's your must have item? I now, as an adult, not pregnant, could like never live without coffee. So as I'm talking about this, I'm like, I really need to go buy instant coffee because I'm just desperate. I would be desperate. I think that's what I miss the most. Mm-hmm. So thanks so much for joining us for this episode. If you guys have anything that you have to have on your list, like what's your must-have item, right? Like what is your thing?
Or if you've ever experienced any of those hurricanes, we'd love to hear your story. So go ahead and comment on YouTube. Probably is the best way.
Yep. Leave us a comment, give us a call, send us an email. You can call us at 1-844-ST-CLOUD, STCLOUD, or email us at discoverstcloud@gmail.com. And we look forward to hearing from you, and we'll see you in the next episode.
See you soon.